boss of bosses, the most wanted man in Italy, has been arrested after 30 years as a fugitive, and he was wearing a pretty great coat and hat combo when it happened. But we wanted to get something up just real quick on the background and everything that's happened. The guy's name is Matteo Messina Denaro, and he's said to be at the head of the Sicilian Mafia, La Costa Nostra. He's alleged to have risen to the top after the arrest of Bernardo Provenzano in 1998, the prior top boss, and he finally cemented his role at the top when one of his chief rivals, Salvatore Lo Piccolo, was arrested in 2007. And just a quick note before we really get into it, the Sicilian Mafia, also known as La Cosa Nostra, is one of the three big organized crime syndicates that are based in Italy. And they're not all, hierarchical where there's one guy on top and everything beneath it, right? The other two are the Camorra, who are based in Naples, and the 'Ndrangheta, whose base is Calabria. In, say, the last decade or so, the Sicilian Mafia, despite, the reputation, has become kind of a distant third in the power rankings and is playing, third string to these two other groups. The 'Ndrangheta is probably at the top-ranked organized crime in Italy right now, and one U.S. diplomat estimated once that they do about 3% of Italy's GDP, which is, pretty crazy. But okay, on to the arrest. Denaro himself was born in 1962. He's born into an old-school mafia family. His father was a regional mafia boss who was the head of the local mafia commission for the province of Trapani in Sicily. The story goes that when Salvatore Toto Rina became the head of the Corleonesi mafia clan in the mid-70s, he went around killing every local mafia boss under his dominion. This included the province of Trapani, but for an unknown reason, Denaro's father was spared. And to show gratitude to Toto, he entrusted him with his son, a nice little mentorship, and Toto really liked the kid. To understand Denaro, you really have to understand Toto, who rose to become the boss of bosses in the 80s after winning a brutal mafia war in Italy where thousands were killed. Toto was an extreme psychopath who not only advocated for the killing of women and children, which was against, the normal Sicilian mafia code, but also killing uninvolved civilians because he thought it would distract the police, which again was not something the Sicilian Mafia really typically went for. They did have codes they had gone by for, centuries. Denaro started off as a hitman, as a killer, doing hits for Toto and participating in the usual mafia activities like extortion, protection rackets, and all that. There's talk he himself actually killed around 50 people, and even is reported to have said to another mafioso, quote, "With the people I've killed myself, I could fill a cemetery." He made his reputation by killing a rival mafia boss and strangling his girlfriend who was 3 months pregnant. So you can kind of see the influence Toto had over him, right? Another interesting thing about Denaro is that past Sicilian mafia bosses would portray a sort of conservative image, with the wife and the kids, even if they had stuff on the side. Denaro was known as a playboy womanizer. He drove around in fancy cars, he wore expensive suits and watches, and he also had a passion for video games, particularly Super Mario, which, it's kind of funny when you think about it. Yeah, so Denaro, he's running around committing these murders while the boss man Toto becomes the boss of bosses after winning that mafia war. And he runs the mafia, even more so like a dictatorial psycho, like worse than other mafia bosses who, again, aren't the nicest people. He earned the nicknames the Beast and the Animal just for terrorizing people. In 1984, the first high-profile Sicilian mafioso turned state's witness. And in order to divert resources away from this investigation, Toto orders the Christmas Massacre, where on December 23rd, his goons blow up a passenger train, killing 16 people and wounding 266. Police only figure out it was a mafia plot 7 years later when they find similar explosives at a mafia fugitive's hideout. If you remember our episode we did a while back on the Maxi Trial, this trial begins in 1986, it lasts for 7 years, and it's the first big trial against the Sicilian Mafia and results in hundreds of people convicted, including dozens of bosses. During this period, Toto, with Denaro playing a prominent role, he orders the deaths of multiple prosecutors, judges, and politicians to try to terrorize the state and get them to back off. And as part of the Maxi Trial, Toto is given 2 life sentences in absentia because, of course, he was in hiding and not trying to get caught. Once his conviction is upheld on appeal, he goes back into action. Giovanni Falcone and Paolo Borsellino, the 2 leading anti-mafia prosecutors, are killed within 3 months of each other in massive car bombs. We did do a whole episode on this. If you guys want to check back, I think Sean did it, and he probably pronounced things a lot better than I am. Once again, Denaro is said to have played a prominent role In these killings, he goes on the run in 1992 after the bombings. On the 15th of January 1993, the Italian police arrest Rina at his villa in Palermo. He had been a fugitive for 23 years, and basically, he had just gone too far. If you're going to become a terrorist and try to intimidate the state and really embarrass them like this and start killing people, you're going to get arrested super fast. The typical bribes and corruption aren't going to work when you're making international headlines for these sort of car bombings and civilian attacks, which is just a really stupid move on his part. No country with the means to go after you is going to let that stand, right? No bribe can fix that. In response to his arrest, he orders the Mafia and Denaro to conduct multiple terrorist attacks around Italy to scare Sicilian members against testifying against him and to just terrorize the state. They set off bombs, they attacked churches and art galleries, they killed dozens of people, injured dozens more. These terror attacks really infuriate the Italian public. And that's why when Denaro gets arrested, I think, a couple days ago now, you saw these videos of people clapping and celebrating in the streets, right? They it's one thing to do your little criminal empire. It's another to terrorize people. And when one of Falcone's assassins got arrested and turned state witness, this is another attack. When one of Falcone's assassins had gotten arrested and turned state's witness, the Sicilian Mafia had kidnapped his 12-year-old son and held him captive for 2 years, then strangled him and dissolved his body in acid. This is the kind of shit that these guys did, and that's why, no one's really crying about their arrest. That whole, attitude that people think in Sicily where they love these guys and they're the outlaw heroes, these guys kind of ruined that with the actions that they took. Denaro received a life sentence in absentia for the role that he played in that kidnapping and killing. And one of the reasons he was able to remain a fugitive for 30 years is because he was very cautious. He kept an extremely tight circle, which, despite his earlier, things with showiness and all that, he really tightened ship. A mafioso hasn't met with him directly in a long time, so it was very hard to identify him. There's no voice recordings of him. He would rely on pizzinis, which are small handwritten notes, to give orders, and the police had this scorched earth strategy to try to bring him down. They went after his inner circle. They drained his finances. In the early 2010s, billions of dollars of assets with links to him were seized over multiple busts, and in 2013, his sister was arrested. She was said to have played a pivotal role as a link between him and the criminal organization. When he does finally get arrested, a couple days ago in Palermo in Sicily, he was receiving cancer treatments. But that's just what we wanted to get up, something quick on him and his background. I think we'll probably try to do a later episode when we have more time to dig into it and talk to some Italian reporters. But just wanted you guys to have this background. As always, please, normal YouTube shit, review us if you can, share it, algorithm, whatever, because it's hard to get this stuff out there. I think the algorithm does not like all the talk we do of the buzzwords of killing and mafioso and organized crime. But until next episode, be on the lookout, because I think we're getting one up every couple of days now.